Hey guys, it's that time of week again where we look at a Discovery episode. Last night was episode 4. We are Trekyards. I'm Captain Foley.
I'm Commander Cockings, and this is our first discussion, review, theorization, talking about, I don't know anyone's opinions, I just know my own. And this is our review, our little simple breakdown before our full, detailed, scene-by-scene extraction of all the fun facts later on tonight. So please join us for that. But Stuart, let's start. Your general thoughts. What do you think of this episode? Episode 4.
My general thoughts, I really enjoyed this episode. Thought it was pretty good. Had the vibe of Star Trek, but this time, unlike episode 2 that I really loved that had a TOS feel, I think this had more of a TNG vibe to it and more of that kind of characterization and build. And I thought it was going to be a little bit cluttered and crowded and too much going on at first, but it worked out really good. And all the plots kind of gelled together because they were all about health and, kind of an interesting vibe that way. So I enjoyed it. That's my overall thought.
Yeah, me too.
Wow.
Yeah, I liked it. For me, this one had some real slow points that I was getting a little bit bored because it wasn't the things they were trying to tell us in the scene based on the actual build-up of Discovery itself. They haven't earned, and we'll get into that later. And so I was watching thinking, I mean, this is not earned. So you're trying to make me feel things, but because you're not there yet. But in one of our sub videos we're going to do, the title is Discovery Finder's Science Fiction. Good, wonderful, yes. I don't like the Pavovans, which is just like a throwaway. I mean, you know how they treated them. This is like an actual, like you said, TNG. Alien stellar phenomenon of the week. I think for me it had no major highlights, but it kept a strong medium. Does that make sense?
Yeah. No, I would definitely buy that. Yep.
Yeah.
It's a good way to describe it, actually. Never considered that, but you're right.
Yeah. Now, question for you, and I was thinking this while I was watching it. This is very much a continuing story arc episode, which is why you didn't like, one of the many reasons you didn't like episode 3. This one's all about the story arcs continuing. Wasn't episodic per se, even though it sort of was. So how did you feel then? Because it's very...
I totally disagree with you. It's 100% episodic. Yeah, they start chasing Spock and they end chasing Spock, but that's the overarching story. However, that being said, you could watch this as a standalone piece and not really be lost as to what the hell is going on. Yeah, they're chasing Spock, but I like the way they did it. So to me, it did feel episodic, and that's one of the reasons I think I really enjoyed it.
Because for me it felt the exact opposite beyond having a strong A and B, because it starts off with the Spock storyline, and then you've got the Saru continuing storyline, then you've got the Tilly continuing storyline, you've got the Stamets continuing storyline, and then so every element of it is a continuing storyline except they bump into this alien, and that itself is almost is the primary, but every other element is a continuing storyline. Like it's all part of the flowing narrative.
But I don't consider Saru's part part of his continuing storyline. It's just his character.
Well, it was a development from his Brightest Star webisode thing. It was.
I mean, yeah, but not everybody has seen the Brightest Star because the shorts are only available to certain people, and they haven't seen them yet because they aren't available on the season 1 Blu-rays. So,
but they are now on Netflix. Just slightly hard to find. So they are worldwide, just not promoted as worldwide.
I saw that as a very minor thing. It's a character thing. It's not necessarily. No, I still felt very episodic with this episode. What did you think about the whole exposition right at the beginning? As soon as she beams in, she's right to business, and I love that about number 1. I thought that was great. Even the look on Pike's face, like, oh, yeah, hi, welcome to Discovery, and she just jumps right into the whole. Well, the ship's down system-wide, and it's like, yes, this is the number 1, the analytical, to the point, number 1 that we saw in the Cage or Menagerie. Not very much of her, but I kind of like that, and it hit all the points. It's like, yep, the Enterprise is having issues in all its major systems. We have the chief engineer looking into it, and then it goes right to a reference to TOS where he says, I don't think there'll ever be another engineer that loves the ship as much as he does. And then, that damn holographic communications array, we're ripping it all out because apparently it's what caused one of the issue. And so they're going to be the only ship in the fleet that got affected by it. They said that. And they're the only ship that is going to be ripping it out, supposedly. And I love how he said it's like talking to ghosts, because a lot of people have said
Yeah.
they look like force ghosts. So I mean, they kind of hit boom, 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 the ground running with the whole episode, and I loved it. I like exposition to explain a bunch of stuff.
It's one of those classic. Again, we made a boo boo. We did a flub. Let's add something in the universe to try and rectify it. Although I don't necessarily appreciate how it's now a case of, oh, everyone else in all of Trek always used them except Kirk and Pike. Everyone always did. It's like, so, okay.
Yeah, you're saying the
Sure.
Enterprise is a piece of junk, that it's the only ship that was affected by it? Like,
At least there's now a reason. But it means that we're going to keep seeing them for the rest of the universe. I mean,
not necessarily. I think there's going to be an explanation at some point where they just...
or just use them less. I don't know. It was fine. It was nice to hear. But yeah, number one was great. She was a true professional, and that's all you can. You know, I always say officers should be good at their jobs, and you can see how she became the second in command of one of the most prestigious ships in the fleet. So, what do you think of the Saru storyline? Starting with a cold, then gonna die, and then ooh,
evolution of his species. I thought it was interesting, and at one point I was a little concerned. Sylvia was upset. She's like, "Oh my God, Sarah, I don't want Sarah to die," and I'm like, "We've seen trailers for season 2, and he's
with
like,
his sister
in it later. Yeah, he's gonna be fine." I thought it was gonna be from the memory dump from this anomaly, this creature, whatever, that was gonna save him. There's gonna be some knowledge in there that would save him, or something like that. So yeah, I figured that would be kind of carried over to the next episode, maybe him going into a coma, and then but. With the way they addressed it, I thought it was really well done. And again, that reminded me of a TNG episode, the one where the alien from the one planet was displaying symptoms of this disease, and the authorities were hunting him down. He seeked asylum on the Enterprise, and at the end, evolved into the next form of their evolution, a beam of a luminous creature. It was kind of sad seeing him, with the ganglia out and looking all old and sickly. It just didn't feel right. Now, of course, it changes everything with Saru. I think he's going to be driven to head back to his planet, whether that means stealing the Discovery, a la Spock in the Menagerie, just to save his sister. I don't know.
I both loved it, liked it, and didn't like it in different parts for different reasons.
Really?
Yeah. I never for once thought he was actually going to die just because he's a great marketing tool. They're not going to kill him off. But that's just like, and no hero is actually going to die sort of syndrome. I liked the build. I liked that it was, his species is thingy-mabob, but he was still fighting it. I liked the ending a lot. I thought that really made Brightest Star worth more, because that kind of fell flat a bit. It was fun to see, but it didn't make a lot of sense. And although they obviously wrote that after this, and so on its own doesn't quite work. But now the idea that the Kelpians, they're genetically, because we know genetically modified and bred into this. So once they reach the point of, oops, now we can't control them anymore, then they become a threat, and so they get taken up, because after that point they become a threat. And I thought was a really interesting plot point, and that makes so interesting finally, because he was a MacGuffin in season 1 that they forgot about because it wasn't Brian Fuller writing it beyond a certain point. We've said for a long time, like, what does a sense of death mean? He never quite did. It was always like, and now he can't. Now his ganglia are gone, so now he's actually lost that ability, which is really interesting. Now he's just going to stand up by himself, and they've lost the thing that was stupid about him, that defined him, that made no sense. So I kind of appreciate they're making a real character, real species, not just a one-tone thing.
Yeah, and they did kind of explain that a little bit by saying that his empathy is built into his DNA. He feels empathy for other creatures. That's how he's able to sense these kind of things.
It's a combination of things, but yeah, they're swapping the superpower to he's just very empathetic. Because the first time I've heard of that, that's completely, we wrote that in quickly to change it. You know what? That's better. Better.
And now he said he feels his power. So yeah, it's interesting that if the other Kelpians start to, stand up to this, I can't remember the race that calls them.
Ral, I think. Yeah, once you're not afraid, then they were bred to be faster, stronger, see more.
Yeah, but the thing that threw me off about that is you got to think that some of them wouldn't get necessarily culled. Some of them might, have this happen and then naturally die and have them fall off. But that's kind of the feeling I got that Saru was expecting. If Burnham didn't cut them off, he was going to experience a lot of pain, and then he was going to die.
So I'm assuming maybe the madness is like a thing that you're told when you're a child, and so the rule is you get so many people killed to stop this thing that we can't let any of our family deal with, so we'll just kill them first. And so maybe that's like then they've self-sacrificed to get to that point. Or maybe you could argue the creature was, it was a fake maybe because it was a fake death signal, that it didn't have the actual kill mechanism in him. So then when his body went through the process of shedding, which is what they do, the kill switch didn't activate, and so it kind of subverted what happens. But now he knows it's possible to live like that. So that might be the fun little double reason for the episode. The bit I didn't like about the storyline, though, as I mentioned earlier, is that there's a lot of those big scenes. I mean, Burnham's point in this episode is kind of a nice secondary. She's like a floating secondary, which is great for her. This was definitely an ensemble piece. But she had so many scenes with Saru where you're meant to feel there's such this bond between them. But in season 1, we know they hated each other, and they put every effort to make them hate each other. That was the entire point of the scripting. And then we got a few little beats by the last 3. They were getting over it. But the amount of friendship in this episode exchange is not earned in the slightest. They've sort of retconning them into being amazingly family friends, where they know even reading the book, they hate each other for 7 years. Didn't dislike, hated. And so those scenes, I got bored because I'm like, this is not genuine. I mean, it is in the context of the scene, but it's not earned. It's not what would have happened.
No, I totally buy that 100%. That being said, I really did appreciate Burnham's acting, or Sonequa Martin Green's acting in this one. It was really powerful. You can see her acting chops in this one. She's not being directed flatly. The character becomes more likable with this relationship with Saru now.
Oh yeah, this should have been season 1. I mean, we've said this since episode 1. If this was season 1, skip them being enemies. This is fine. This is great. Just remove season 1, start season 2, then it's fine. Absolutely fine. They're much better being positive, and the acting was great. And again, Doug Jones did a great multi-leveled, because he never felt despair, because this is just life, and that was a nice little texture to it. He couldn't ever be that unhappy, because it's just life, man. So what do you think about the Tilly plot, which was very like earned front and center here?
It's very interesting, actually, because we find out the reason that this creature attached itself to Tilly was because they were living in peace and they had intrusions into their space. So this is what we kind of thought might be the case with the Red Angels, and now it's the case with this thing instead. That she, at great risk to herself, attached herself to Tilly so that she could tell Stamets to knock it off. And Stamets is like, all I can do is give you my apologies. I didn't know. We're gonna fix this. We're gonna seal off the network, which is nice, because at the end of the episode they're talking about being able to seal Adora forever, and that's good because that's wrapping up a major issue. And the fact that this thing is a symbiote, they say that, attaches itself to Tilly again and encases her, and then makes the other two high when they cut into it. So I don't think Tilly ever got removed from the cocoon. They just thought she was. That's my feeling, that they were just imagining getting her out, and when they came to, she was gone. She was already back in the cocoon. So I don't know what its plans for Tilly are. That's kind of concerning a little bit, but I thought that was an excellent storyline, and I'm looking forward to seeing where this goes with this mycelial creatures, because even though they look simplistic, they're one of the most advanced organisms that Stamets has ever seen.
Yeah, the ending I think you were alluding to is a bit like Tilly's role was fulfilled. So what on earth is there next for that? Because she was the messenger. She was the piggybacker to get into our realm. Although I do think she was removed just based on how they frame her out of it, how she's surprised. Like, it's very much. So I think she was out. That's conceptual. I think she was out and then pulled back in, because it can morph. So I'm not worried that they just pulled her in. But no, yeah, I liked it. I think they were rushing. I think they really knew that we have lots of this other storyline happening. We've got to rush the Tilly stuff in 1, 2, and 3. We've got to get through Tilly. We've got to get to this point, and that's why it felt so over Tilly focused, because it's actually a bigger plot than just her, which wasn't certainly clear from the first 3. So now we've got to the plot. It feels this was a well balanced, where she wasn't important per se. It could have been anyone in this current version of the plot. But the repercussions of it are really interesting. Yes, I absolutely love the, you're jumping into our dimension. It's a higher realm of existence, a la wormhole, Q continuum, whatever. It just happens to be one of those. And yeah, you're hurting us. We're a race that lives there. What are you doing? And so, what more of a perfect way to kill spore technology than we can't hurt millions of alien creatures every time we jump? It's not worth it. We're terrorists, then, aren't we? Every time we're actively hurting, killing life forms just to get around quicker. So that was great way. I thought that was.
This is one that's going to pay off and actually stick. Unlike damaging subspace in TNG, where we'll reduce our, and then it's just kind of never mentioned. They mention it once or twice. We got to keep the lower warp speeds, but
it's funny that they're putting a big plot point for season 2 to eradicate season 1's contribution to the Trek universe. It's like Brian had this sort of idea that was then corrupted and changed, and then season 2 is let's get rid of that idea as quick as possible.
Well, let's talk about the other main storyline real quick before we finish up, and that's just this strange orb that stops them, 100,000-year-old orb.
I mean, the Trek storyline.
Yeah. Again, I thought it was fantastic. The way they worked it into this pursuit of Spock was awesome.
Yep.
And kind of tied it in with the Saru thing. I thought it was just really well done. And the fact that this thing came to them as a last contact instead of first contact was interesting. And it dumped basically 100,000 years of what it's seen information-wise to them to kind of, share its life with them. I thought that was absolutely awesome. And the fact that scientists are going to be, poring over these results for years to come is a great story, a Star Trek storyline.
I thought it was great. I thought it was a very nicely integrated A plot, because all of the B plots were affected by it, which is a great way of doing it. You got this umbrella plot, which is every other plot continues to link into. It was great, and it was a nice Trek element. The ending was great, although it's funny I even like Pike's eject the warp core, we'll try and destroy it anyway. Everyone was professional. It was I like seeing them do good jobs. We didn't get that much in season 1. It doesn't take many lines, and this episode was longer. Yes, use length if you need it. Seriously, give the story the time to breathe it needs to. So yeah, I thought it was well done, and I loved. I've never seen this before, but I love the Universal Translator mishap, because I mentioned that in a comment the other day. Someone said, "Oh, but why is that in this?" I'm like, you realize that everyone's universal translating. Not everyone speaks English or Klingon. You don't go to the academy and learn every language. Your universal translator is what keeps everything going, and obviously it's used for aliens, but for you as well. Obviously, lots of people learn things, and it was greatly set up by the Saurian, which was just a wonderful little joke moment. But I thought it paid off brilliantly. We've never seen that in Trek before, but that could absolutely be in TNG. And actually, if you read the subtitles, it's actually got some nice other clear things. But yeah, it's a great little scene.
And it uses Saru's knowledge of 94 Federation languages. I love the way he came in and kind of saved the day, reset their consoles. And am I the only one that's learned a foreign language?
It's great. That was great Trek. That was a wonderful idea. And what do you think of the Saurian, who gets pride of place in this episode?
Linus.
It's great.
That was great. It was really good. I love how the Universal Translator has a little bit of an issue with his clicks and pops before they even had a Universal Translator issue.
It's great. And what do we want? We want existent races represented. Stop inventing new ones. You've got a billion races, and so he got and the TOS characters the Enterprise crew member. Brilliant. Yeah, they're existing races. You've added something to the world by using something from the world.
Yeah. And that kind of answers one of our videos that we did. Why didn't Pike bring anybody aboard? She says they say to her, "Welcome back," because she just came on. I think when number 1 came on. Where were they? Were they at Earth space dock or dry dock with the Enterprise, or did number 1 meet them somewhere else? That's one thing I wanted answers to. But anyway,
they needed an initial shot of the Discovery somewhere, and a TOS looking variant of the pre-existing fleet from season 1 to show, because that'd be a nice little pushing us forward. Drop out of warp and say, USS Hathaway requesting to beam aboard. Granted. Then walks in, and that would have been a nice touch, because you need those sorts of scenes. And obviously episode 2 did them brilliantly. This one had good ones, but they were all very one tone. Not in a bad way. They're in a one tone situation, but it needed that initial shot because I assume they took a warp shuttle, I guess, just to deliver. Obviously, there's a classified dodgy message, but I mean, yeah, needed a shot.
And the one little other plot point we should talk about, which is really small and kind of missed by a lot of people, I think, was the fact that number one was looking into the Spock thing, because it was uncharacteristic Spock, obviously. Yep. She's very concerned about the case. It's been marked as a level 1, which is way, way high compared to what... we'll talk about that more in our breakdown, but the fact that she's looking into it clandestinely without... She's like, Pike, do you really want to know that information, you know? So him and her are on the same page. So she's got her own investigation going on, which I'm sure we might see more of. I'm hoping we do.
Yeah. Well, she's a setup to a payoff. You know? And I want to give him a little bit of credit. I like that they didn't jump into Section 31 instantly, because that was very much the vibe from last episode, even when you said, where's the next scene? You know, it sort of ends. That obviously, when the ship gets pulled out of warp, I was thinking... Really? Section 31's got that good technology, they can pull a ship out of warp. Really? Is that okay yet? And then you see this big orb and like, oh great, it's not them. I was like, okay, you showed restraint. It wasn't just a barging in sort of scene, because that I would have kind of like, it was so obvious. I'm glad they didn't do it. You know, and I think I'm going to be right. I think we're going to hit Spock episode 6, because I said 6, we're already 4 in, but they're getting there slowly.
Yeah.
I think it'll be 6.
I think I said 5 or 6.
Yeah.
But
Well, you said at one point you said 1 as well. You said episode 1, but
but I didn't believe that. I didn't believe that. I said that's probably what they would do.
Oh right.
I expect it later. I would like it later.
Which is great. I mean, I think we're getting the more episodic. Each episode has a flair of its own. Even if episode 3 was about the Klingon arc, that was the flair of its own, and so they are more memorable because of that. Before we get into this big Spock stuff, we're not running right into Spock is everything, Spock is all, and even the Red Angels in this episode were non-existent. This was about the other stuff, and so that I think was also good, because you don't need to keep throwing... You know, overarching has a point, but you need to appreciate the episodic as well, and I think this was a good balance of that. Oh, and last note, the engineer lady, who I wasn't amazingly impressed with in the first appearance. Like, she was good, and she was... But I was like... I liked her better in this one. I think she was...
Oh, the Hawatha lady?
Yes.
Yeah, she was awesome. Her back and forth with Stamets, kind of a counterpoint to Stamets, kind of throwing him off a little bit, and having him not have a snappy comeback, really made me smile. Yep. They need to keep her on board. The one thing that pissed me off about that scene, though, was the fact that the chief engineer sent her down to redirect the plasma flow. Who is the chief engineer, and why have we never met this person? So I want either her or Stamets to become chief engineer of the Discovery at some point.
Which is why I like the scene, because she put him in his place. He is not a amazing engineer. He's a fungal expert.
He's a scientist, yeah.
He is not qualified to be fixing the ship. And so she comes in, and instantly you know he is so out of his league. Like, that is an engineering officer. He was a spore guy. And that was really refreshing, because all we saw on the technical side was this, and this is not a proper representation of the ship's engineer, ring staff. So that was brilliant to see. And I think she's actually very valuable in that respect. And I love she wasn't even briefed about the spore drive, and she again said the audience reaction, because obviously they're closing the book on that, and so they can make fun of it because they know they're going to stop it and say it's ridiculous. And they had a full argument about warp travel and sustainable resources. That's wonderful. That's a nice little. Yeah. That's great. That's great.
Yeah, it was really well done. So I want to see more of her for sure. I'm glad they brought her back. But yeah.
There we go. So yeah, my final thought was, like I say, no amazing highlights, although a couple of great moments, but a very strong medium the entire time, with a couple little dips for me, but a very solid episode. And again, if this is what we're getting mid-season 1, would have been much more happy. This really again shows how bad season 1 was when you get stuff like this, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
Closing thoughts?
Yeah, my closing thoughts are the same. Very strong overall episode, but kind of not top tier. No amazing moments for sure, but definitely one that's very watchable and rewatchable, and has a lot of excellent elements for sure. And again, like I said, feels very, very much like an episode of TNG.
I would agree.
Episode 2 was TOS. This one's TNG. Keep that up, that kind of vibe, and we'll be happy. That's all I have to say.
It was an ensemble cast.
So guys, Discovery guys, keep up the good work. I think you're doing good. You're kind of getting a course correction, and that's awesome. And we're looking forward to seeing more. And looking forward, of course, as always, to your guys' comments on this episode. What did you think? Put it in the comment section down below. As always, hit like. That helps. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel and click notification, because we do a lot of cool videos breaking down the episodes and talking about little nuances that not a lot of people do. And I think you guys might be interested. So click the notification icon so you get notified.
And if you want to join us tonight, we're doing our live, where we discuss every scene in depth, all the little visual cues, all the little visual fun things, and you can super chat to support the channel. But there are other ways to support the channel, Stuart. One of which is Patreon. What are the other ways, Stuart?
You can head on over to trekyards.com, click the donate button, or by all means, check out the description down below. We've got our Teespring store, we got Eagle Moss, we got a whole bunch of affiliates, sponsors. You get discounts, you get cool codes, you have fun. It's like you're a spy. You get some really cool codes you can enter and get some cool stuff. So, lots of ways to help us out. And of course, just watching and sharing is the most important thing. So come back and see us next time. And until then, I'm Captain Foley.
I am Commander Coggins. Bye, guys.
See ya.